FantasyTakeTV. We are well and truly getting into the preseason now because we're looking at buys today. And normally I wouldn't do this type of video. I'm not a big buy and analyzer, planner, all that type of stuff. It's not overly important. But I realized if I'm going to start explaining at some point the strategy behind fantasy and how it applies to SuperCoach, which is definitely what I would like to do this preseason, I'm going to need a fixture to kind of talk about the different cycles, or at least like a round planner to go through different cycles in the game, what you're kind of working through at different points, and then of course that's going to affect teams in this preseason and some of the strategies it opens up. So in doing so, I started building out another tab on my spreadsheet, and here it is. It's the little buy fixture thing, as well as my rankings, which we'll go through today. And just quickly on this spreadsheet, I've had a few people ask me how can they get access to it. I know there's a lot that want access to it. Like, there's a few things in here. There's being able to pick out certain players and have a look at their scores for across the year, how they map with certain players, how many tons, how well they finished, all that type of stuff that you'd expect to see. It's got hit outs and kick ins and all that. It's just a nice summary view. This data all exists elsewhere, but I really like it as a summary view to start looking at these players. If you follow me on Twitter, you recently saw that I added this with and without tool, so you can chuck in a player and see how they scored with and without all the different players in their team from that year, as well as how each of those players scored with them. So, for example, it looks like Adam Chera scored much better with Walsh in the side than without. And this is all correlation stuff. It just serves as a point to do further analysis, but really good top-down view to kind of like scan this information quickly and then walk away with that. And then we've added in this by planner. So the reason why I'm telling you this is I think I'm going to give people access to this spreadsheet, but for a donation to a charity, which is still TBC. I'm not even sure if I'll go ahead with this. But yeah, if that's the type of thing you'd like to participate in, let me know. And I guess that'll give me the kick up the butt I need to actually go ahead and think that out a little bit harder. Otherwise, for today, we're going to go through these buy ranks and explain what why I've got different primos, mid prices, rookies broken out, because often these are just lumped in together, and I do think there's a difference, and we'll go through that. But before we jump into it, and most importantly, I want to reiterate, this shouldn't dictate your starting team as much as people let it. Buy ranks or rankings like this would only ever be used as a tiebreaker for me, and it wouldn't get me away from a pick that I really like. So, for example, the Blues don't have a great buy fixture for rookies, for mid prices, for primos, basically none of them. But if you thought Sam Walsh was 20 points discounted, you should still start him. If you think Williams is 50 points discounted, you should still start him. It doesn't matter that they have a really bad grade on this. It is a tiebreaker. It is not a guide to determine who I should or shouldn't start based on this alone. It'd be a very bad use of it. With that said, I'll just quickly go through the rankings. I've just put it together myself. A few members in the Discord quickly checked over it, and it seemed reasonable on first pass, but there's probably some mistakes in these letter grades. But let's go through it. So we'll start with primos, and for the A or best ones, I've got the Power and the Dockers. Oh, geez, I haven't even checked this spreadsheet for spelling mistakes. I've got the team names right. All right. So, yeah, reason why is they're the only two teams on this round 13 bye. It's a great one to target for best 18. So, yeah, if you're going to give the best grade to teams, it's got to be them. Next up, we've got North with the round 12 bye. And somewhat similarly, it is a bye with less other teams. So, it's better to target players from that bye, and I think they also benefit from the other three teams on that bye have another early bye, so they're not particularly good. So North primos here are quite nice. The next one's down, so these C grades, we've got all the teams on round 15 that just have the one bye, and the reason why I prefer them over the round 14 teams with just one bye, which is then the D tier or the next tier down, is simply because with these round 15 bye players, you can then flip them earlier on, and you're never going to get to trade into them during the buy. So you'd rather start with them than not start with them and flip them later. So they're just slightly better. But once again, tiebreaker, not like a key to which ones I should start with. And then after the D tier, we then for the primos jump into all those that have two buys, and it's going to be a pretty common theme. These two buy teams are going to be sitting on the bottom of a lot of these lists. Doesn't mean there isn't an opportunity, especially with the rookies, which we might touch on a little bit here. It does come into one of the potential strategies for this year with these extra trades. But yeah, so I've got Tigers as the next bunch. I think I prefer my primos having the round 6 bye to the others slightly, and then they've got preferred like 14 and 15 over round 12. The ones that rank really poorly at the bottom are going to be the Swans, the Lions, and the Giants. And the reason why is they have 2 byes in the first 12 rounds. So it's just not very good. You can pick a player from the Crows, for example, and have had no byes at that point. And yes, they still have one to come, but you can then flip the Crows player into a player from one of those teams that have then had 2 byes. So this is definitely a knockdown. And then, yeah, the other ones here, other 2 bye teams are all in that E tier. With, you know, them being primos, the idea is that I'm holding them through all of this anyway. So if I had to slightly preference, like maybe the Tigers one and maybe the Pies one are slightly better because they've got that round 15 combo. But really, like, you're holding them through all of this anyway. I slightly like the 14, 15 byes over the others. But these are all, like, yeah, primos that have 2 byes when others only have 1. Not great. All right, we'll go into the mid prices, and this is hopefully where the spreadsheet should work. Create a filter, sort by that, and we'll just clear it off just so it's easy to read. Okay, so mid prices. Now this changes to primos, which you can see pretty clearly off the bat. What are we trying to do with mid prices? We're still trying to make money out of these and then flip them. And you will typically flip these players later than rookies, not always the case. So the players that end up with better tiebreakers here are ones that have their bye later on. That should be true for the most part. So yeah, these top ones here are all round 15 bye mid-price players that only have the 1 bye. And because once you get to that point, you should have extracted max value out of them, and you can sideways them to a premium at that point pretty safely. The next ones here I've got are the round 13 and 14 bye players. And so the reason why the round 13 ones are in here, even though it's slightly worse, just because the bye comes earlier, so you have 1 less round to make money, and you've got less teams to upgrade those mid prices into. It's also an easier bye to manage, and you're going to have less players missing on it. So it's just as good kind of as these round 14 sides. So all kind of around the B tier, these ones. Then from there, once again, we start getting into, and then North's the one here in C, standalone C tier. And the reason why is you hit round 12, you've got a mid-price that you want to cash out on. You've got no one to trade them to because everyone that you're trading to still has a buy to come in round 13, 14, or 15. And if you hold them through the round 12 buy, it then makes it awkward to upgrade in the next few rounds. So you're kind of just like stuck in this awkward position with mid-pricer. You could move on from them earlier than that, of course. But yeah, it's why it's slightly below those in the B tier. And then we get into, D, E, and F, all those teams that have 2 byes. So why am I preferencing here oh, interesting. Have I made a mistake there? Maybe the Swans one here could come up to E. That is potentially a mistake. All right, so on the Tigers and Demons here, the reason why I've got these slightly ahead of, so round 6 preferred to round 5 is because you get 6 price rises up until this point, which means that you may be flipping or may be able to sell or upgrade from the Tigers and Demons mid prices reasonably at this point as part of your upgrade cadence, and it actually not be as big of a deal as some of these other ones. So effectively, you could still get the upside of the mid pricer, but not have to experience 2 byes, in which case they're slightly better than the rest. And it's also why the round 5 guys are better than the round 2 or 3. And then, yeah, the round 2 and 3 ones are the worst. And on top of that, I think the reason why I maybe put Swans, actually, I probably could stay in F, is just because, once again, these teams then run into the round 12, and it's the same problem as the North mid-prices, which is you get to this point, who am I flipping them to? It becomes a little bit awkward. So they've got 2 byes, and they've probably got the worst buy for mid-prices. So actually, I think I'll just keep it as is. Pies are slightly ahead just because this round 15 second buy is much better than the round 12 one. And then we will move on to the rookies. And this is, if you've kind of been following the logic so far, you should be able to pick up why these have been graded the way they have. So basically, any rookie from 13, 14, 15, the buy is all good because for most buys, for most rookies in your starting team, you will have upgraded them or about to have upgraded them in like 13, 14, 15 and be ready to move on. So these buys are all great. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect the rest of your side. You will have sold them. So they've got more than enough time to make all the cash they need to and be moved on. So this is all fine. Next up, we have North in C tier. It could be, I've just skipped B, I guess, but it probably should be B as well. So let's maybe give North a little bit of a bump there. But once again, same problem that if you do still have a rookie here, sideways trading them at round 12 is, well, it's not sideways, but, you know, freeing up that cash and moving them on at round 12 is just a little bit more awkward than the others. So tiny step below. But once again, most North rookies you start, you'll have moved them on by round 12 and it's not actually that big of a deal. So yeah, don't read into that too much. It's just why it's slightly below. After that, we then have all of the 2-buy teams. Common theme. We don't like those two buys. We have the round 6 ones in Tigers and Demons ahead of the rest. And once again, this is the same logic as the mid prices. There's a chance that they will have made enough cash at this point that you could upgrade them as part of your cadence and it not actually be a detriment to your side because you will have never experienced this round 6 buy. So they are ahead of all the rest. There's a little bit of a chance that could be true for round 5 sides, but yeah, like probably less likely. It's be pretty rare. And then, yeah, of course, the round 2 and round 3 teams will cop it the worst. And those that have the round 12 bye, once again, knocked down even further in the same way North was. But yeah, that is then the grades. So, should you read into this that much? Not really. It's just buys. As I mentioned, this should only be used for tiebreakers if you absolutely need it. Or just to consider once you've actually locked in your starting side, just to make sure you haven't got too much overlap. But if you are really interested in buy analysis and some this is how I would have rated them. Otherwise, hopefully this spreadsheet serves as a really good tool for us to talk through strategy across buys in the future. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in that video very soon. Peace.